Did you lay out the books just for
So
why?
I'd remember them.
Okay.
I don't have a list. It's easier to grab the book. I own the book. I like owning books. Fuck libraries. What does they call them at the house? Libraries.
Libraries. That's how I say it.
Is he good? He's
I'm-
a liability.
'Cause
I edited that. There's
He's a-
usually an F in the middle of it.
is that somebody who has the ability to
Is that
not
from a
tell
movie?
the truth?
That is from a Guy Ritchie film from Lock, Stock, and Smoking Bear. Is he any good? He's a effing ability. That's how good he is. Because he's such a good card player. They think they may actually lose to him unless they cheat.
Welcome to Bonehead. What's our episode today, James, that you picked?
I didn't pick it. I said we could do this, and then at the time, both of you said, "Yeah, that'll work. We'll just do this on Friday." And then it got to Friday, and I walked down to your basement or to our fine studio here, and you all said, "What's our topic again? Let's do this crap." Is that pretty much accurate? Is that
No, that's not true at all.
Did we do one Friday?
We did one Friday.
I'm sorry, Sunday. It's Sunday.
That was
I'm
the
time
best.
traveling.
That was the best of 2019.
It's Sunday. I said Friday. Outside of that, excusing the fact that excusing the fact I got the day wrong.
And
No,
we're
and the
shooting
truth
this, what,
was,
2 days
Joe-
before Christmas?
What? Yes.
What did you do with the diet soda?
3. If they're in the fridge.
It's 3 days before. It's not 2 days
It's
before.
3 days. Yeah.
He's on the cocaine.
When do you celebrate Christmas?
Usually December 25th.
Well, that's stupid. That's what they are expecting.
If you launch into another Boxing Day, it's Jesus'
That's
real
what
day.
they're expecting. Hey, now I did something else on Boxing Day.
Well, there is a whole history about why I got
Being
moved
a
to the
possum.
25th.
Well, yeah, it's a pagan holiday.
Yeah.
That's why we have. That's why
yeah,
we have the
that
tree.
technically it would never have happened around December 25th.
No,
It was
no.
Jesus.
Kids aren't born then.
No.
No.
You know
Science.
what? But you try to tell a Christian that, and they'll shove a pagan tree right up your butthole.
What is
Actually-
a pagan tree?
It's a
Really,
Christmas
any
tree.
Christmas tree is
Yeah, I was
pagan.
gonna say.
Actually. Ain't got a damn thing to do. Chocolate Easter bunnies and whatnot.
But those white chocolate Easter bunnies, them's racist.
That is not inclusive. He's got you there.
Yeah.
Actually, I don't
What's
know.
wrong? What's wrong with normal chocolate, Chad?
Yeah, Chad. Why
I'm
it's
just
gotta be
saying,
white
more than
chocolate?
likely, those Easter bunnies, not chocolate. Just saying.
What are they?
I don't know. It's some kind of chocolate substitute.
If you don't buy the good ones,
Yeah, that's what I'm
Oh,
saying.
you mean the cheap ass chocolate?
I mean,
Yes.
if you buy $1, no,
it's
I
basi-
won't name brands
It's
because
a lot
we
of
need
paraffin.
sponsors.
It's a lot of paraffin.
Well, yeah, wax. Yeah, which is actually Hershey Kisses' claim to fame was Hershey could ship chocolate because he used increased wax content because real chocolate would melt.
But Hershey's chocolate tastes good.
It does.
Whereas
It
opposed
does.
to the cheap
But
ass
I'm
dollar
saying-
store bunnies,
I'm just giving the
do not
history.
chase
that
good.
Hershey-
Chase good. Chad's
Don't
already
they,
yawning.
don't they serve Hershey? Don't they sell Hershey's chocolate bars at the dollar store?
Oh, do you go to an Uptown dollar store?
Oh, well, it must be nice.
Uptown dollar store.
I don't know. Where I go over to generic stab, fuck you. There is no Hershey. There's no Hershey. Where in the hell did that come from?
I don't know.
No. That needs to be.
Or as I call it, Park Hills.
Is that a? So I was gonna say generic stab. Fu. Is that a road? Is that a ville? Is that a county?
It's Park Hills.
Chad. It's all things to all
It's
people.
Park Hills. I get my hair tuts there too.
You put your emergency brake on there, right?
Why?
Because you Park Hills.
Oh, I see what you did there.
Dang it.
No,
that
you
humor?
don't. You with your fine emergency brake. He takes a log out the truck and wedges it under
Log
the tire.
out the truck. This is the most country episode we've ever
Take
done.
the log out the truck.
And that is saying a lot after 114, 15, whatever number this will be.
By the way, there's a trailer parked on my thing. You know,
There's
one
a
of those
trailer
moving
parked?
trailer. No, a moving trailer. You know,
Actually, I think this will be 115.
and it's got a log wedged under it to stop it from rolling down the hill. And I look at it every time, going, "They're from the house." I know they're from the house because I literally have seen my
Got a
dad do that
log.
1,000 times. It rolls downstairs, alone or in pairs. Rolls over your neighbor's dog. It's great for a snack. It fits on your back. It's log.
I don't know. What is that? What is that?
It's Ren and Stimpy. How can
Oh,
you not know the log thing?
the log, she's in my head.
No, that's
It's lump.
or
What's the difference?
or Gump.
Gump.
It's Gump. It's Gump.
Gump.
He might be inbred.
What?
Gump was a big
It's Weird Al Yankovic's
celebrity.
parody of lump.
That's a lame one.
He told JFK that he really had to pee. He never feels too dumb because his mama always told him stupid is and stupid does.
It's nowhere near Frank's 2,000-inch TV or CNR. Sorry.
Charles Nelson Riley.
CNR is probably...
Never forget.
Yeah.
All right.
Oh my God, Charles Nelson Riley should have done a show.
We
with
should have
Paul
done a
Moon.
whole episode on Charles Nelson Riley. Hell, we did Dom DeLuise.
But Dom
Yeah,
DeLuise.
he's done more. What are we gonna do?
Has he? He's Charles Nelson Riley. He's in Cannonball Run too.
Yeah, he's in
And don't
Match
you
Game.
tell me so
That's
is
it.
Dom DeLuise.
I know.
Because that'd have been a good argument, and you failed. And now I have it, and I'm going to put it in my pocket, and I'm going to take it to the Park Hills Stab Me dollar store and see if they have your Frou Frou Hershey chocolate. Toblerone, we don't even know what the hell that is, boy.
Oh, Toblerone, that's out there. That you take a left on Toblerone.
It's right down from Fontaine. If they're not in Lexington, they have no idea what we're talking about. All right, so let's get on. Who wants to go to our first book?
So yeah,
Why are we
did
doing
we
this
ever
subject
ever
again?
talk about? Because you said it was a good idea at the time. What
It
our
was late.
topic is?
I had my finger in my ear.
No, literally what happened is Friday after we recorded the best of 2019, we said, are we recording again? Yes. What's the topic? We don't know. On the way home, you texted and said, hey, let's do this. And
You
Joe
got that right, but you didn't get the day right. Because everything you're saying is accurate.
What day did I get right?
You said we're supposed to do this tomorrow, but we decided to do it Sunday.
Do
Do you remember this? Because he said you can't do it Monday. We're having our party.
Yeah.
Okay. I admittedly got that wrong. But anyway.
I'm just seeing how you get the other part right. I mean, really, just
Because talking to you all makes my head hurt. So let's
But
get
yet
through this
you
because I'm going to have
keep
to begin.
doing
Because
it.
of the sexual tension.
Are you
Yeah.
drinking red wine before you get here?
Red wine.
Do you need some cranberry juice?
Say you'll be mine. Is that there?
No, stay close to me.
Me.
Oh. Anyway, can we get on with the topic, please?
could.
Our topic is our favorite actor memoirs. There.
That's a hell of a topic.
Yeah, it's
Well, but I mean, in all honesty, we do pop culture. We've interviewed people, but usually some of our favorite actors won't do the show because
We don't get a lot of actors.
we don't. And by the way, and I've said this before to people about if they're interested in doing the show. We love actors, but we don't
would
really want to
them,
do actors.
But we don't necessarily go after a lot of actors.
No, because
really don't.
I mean, and so I enjoy actor memoirs. Not as actually, I'm enjoying them more now than I ever did before. Though I do have some older favorites.
Is it because you learned how to read?
No, it's because I'm stuck in my car driving so
Are you
much.
dressed up? Where have you been?
I had to. We'll just film this because people
Yeah,
are going to
you
be
are.
interested. So out of the blue, my wife's family.
Could it be out of the periwinkle?
Yes, out of the periwinkle.
Could you point to a color chart and say that was periwinkle?
Probably. It's like sky blue, only lighter.
I thought it was a purple.
Oh, you just got owned.
I guess.
Bitch.
I'm so yeah. You're right. Here you have the bigger vagina.
Thank you.
You have won this
No,
argument.
I
swear to
Change the
God, I
drapes
thought-
in this motherfucker.
I thought periwinkle was a shade of purple.
No.
my wife's.
What do you, and you could just said no. You didn't have to say no with indignity.
My
Oh,
wife,
like you wouldn't.
my wife.
No, I thought it was a shade of purple. See, because I have testicles, I was not aware that it wasn't purple.
Periwinkle.
It's blue.
I went to school with Periwinkle.
Did you?
No, it was Periwinkle one.
Is that Bullwinkle's inbred hick brother?
No, periwinkle was actually the smart one. Believe it or not, Bullwinkle was the Riri.
Yeah.
And if you
could've pulled
couldn't
a
pick
line
that
out
up
of
by
it.
having a conversation,
Ain't
he
that-
talked to a fucking squirrel, dude, for 6 months.
And he never pulled a rabbit out of the hat, Chad.
Never.
You
Never,
put
not
the
one
rabbit
time.
in the hat, you pull the rabbit out of the hat, somehow he
You know what Bullwinkle
You
does?
drink the bowl and you drink the bowl. You put the lime in the coconut, Chad.
And
You
then
drink
you
the bowl up.
You know what Periwinkle?
Then
Damn it! You know what Bullwinkle doesn't have? An autobiography.
Now,
Actually, this is more entertaining than the damn books.
to finish your question,
Probably.
my wife's family, actually her stepfather's family, had something in E-Town, and we just got back from it, so I didn't.
From
check.
Elizabethtown. Well, I just got back from a hauler. And boy, are my arms tired.
What'd you haul?
Oddly enough, my father bought him a backhoe.
Oh, I need to remind me after the show, and I'm being very serious here. I actually need to ask you a question.
I was looking
So,
for
please.
a front variety, but there you
Please,
go.
please let me. Please remind me because I really need to ask you something.
About
and
a
now
backhoe?
No, close. Seriously, I need to ask you something. That being said, so our topic is our favorite
Riveting.
memoirs.
I'm going
from
first.
people. Joe's going to go first.
John Cleese. So anyway, I've read a couple of the boneheads. we could never be.
We ain't got a
could never
memoir
be.
worth a crap.
Not worth a damn. And I couldn't
Today
even...
I lost a penny, and I found it again.
I went to Chili's. They didn't cook my burger well done.
I feel like this is
I got a
true.
raw one once there.
I don't order burgers well done.
I don't either.
No, I just feel like it's true that you went to Chili's today.
No, I hate Chili's.
My
That's
wife
the reason
loves
why
Chili's.
I feel like that you went to Chili's.
My wife's one of my
Because you
favorite.
just,
I know.
you know,
I don't
not
like
winning
that.
at life.
She prefers.
I
it
feel
over
like you
TGI
had to go to
Fridays.
Chili's.
I'll eat at both places, Chad. My point is, I'll
Yeah.
eat pretty much. You've yet to find a restaurant where I'm like, I don't like to go there.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll find
Last
this.
time I was there, it tasted like salt.
I love salt. It's just
That
all
is a common ingredient in foods.
It's
It
my-
all tasted just like salt.
It's my thyroid issue. I love salt. I crave salt. I do. I crave salt over sugar.
This is so funny that I called them the boneheads to me. I mean, anyway. Python, Monty Python. John Cleese, probably not my favorite Python, but the most famous.
And the most
The most famous
The most
was the most famous
opinionated.
before Python.
opinionated, I
famous
would
after
argue as
Python.
well.
Yes, probably. Well, yeah. Him and Terry G.
Yeah.
Terry Gilliam has some opinions.
I-
He's
I-
a director. He's paid to have them.
Yeah.
They're all opinionated.
Yeah. No,
But-
but I mean, and I love John Cleese's. I mean, I agree with most of his opinions.
But the interesting thing is he finally wrote his book. Eric Idles wrote several of them, and one of
Yeah.
them in particular I couldn't even finish reading. This I couldn't put down, and it takes place of the first third of his life. He's going to write to wherever he lives, you know. And I,
You say that as if any moment a sniper is going to be like.
I think it ends with Life of Brian. I'm not for sure, but I think that's where it ends at. It is a fascinating read. It's as detailed as possible when it comes to his mother was depressed. His mom and dad were both older when they had him. He came
The family name was Cheese.
was Cheese. It wasn't Cleese. His dad's the one that changed it because, and in fact, Cleese is not a proper name in any way, shape, or form. They're the only Cleeses.
Yeah.
There are no other. They were Cheese.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to spend a long time on this. If you don't know who he is, well, I won't say what I used to say, but check it out. He belonged to. It's generic. It's cliche, but they are the Beatles of comedy.
They are. Actually, there's a great
In that they're
story.
British.
There's a great story of Eric Idle.
They are British, but they are the best comedy troupe of all
Eric
time.
Idle and George Harrison, who was a Beatle, walking down the sidewalk. There's that story that, and George Harrison, they ran over and said, "Can we get a picture? Can we get a picture? Can we get a picture?" And they handed George Harrison the camera to get a picture with Eric Idle.
I heard the best story about that too. There was a young couple. They were about to get married. They saw Bono at a table. Bono went up to went to use the bathroom. Walked over to the guy that they were eating, who was eating dinner with Bono. Do you mind? Well, you know, he's a private person, but I'll talk to him when he gets back, and I'll see what they can do. They told him about the special occasion. Bono comes over, says, "Yes, I don't mind. Congratulations." Gets a picture, signs everything, and it wasn't until they were done that they realized the whole time they were talking to. Anybody want to take a guess? He's another famous singer, the Boss.
Bro, Bruce
Bruce Springsteen was who they had no
Nice.
clue that that's who they were talking to.
But you know, I think so. Real quick about John Cleese, if you, whether or not you read the book, go back and follow him on Twitter, and go back and read his
It's very
comment,
political,
because one of
yeah.
the things that he
all
tweeted
are,
on
though.
Twitter though was he tweeted out a review that came from, if you don't know, John Cleese feuds with a pretty famous newspaper, I guess tabloid, in England.
The Daily Mail.
It's not. Is it the Now? It's not the Sun. Is it the Sun?
Maybe it's the Sun.
I think it's the Sun.
I forget which one it is, but they did a review of it, and it was hilarious because he tweeted, the tweet he sent out was, "Isn't that what an autobiography is?" And their review literally began with the sentence, "John Cleese has wrote a book that completely focuses on him." And he's
I
like,
remember what you're talking about.
and I couldn't stop laughing.
Maybe the Daily Mail or the Sun.
Because he feuds with it. And I know at one point, the guy that owns Fox News, Murdoch, owned a portion of it and things like that, and so he started. But yeah, John Cleese is just an entertaining human being, and I agree with some of his politics, and even the ones that I don't necessarily agree with. I love to follow him because he goes back and forth with people, and he's a lot of fun to watch.
All right, Chad.
I'm going to talk. I don't have a lot. I haven't read a lot of Celebrity Autobiographies. So I'm going to talk about two. The first one is Artie Lang's Too Fat to Fish. It's just a riveting book about this.
You know, I never finished it. I got bored.
Really? I didn't get bored.
I got bored when he was talking about hit a little bit with his family, and he has a slight obsession with the Jersey Boys, not Frankie Lane.
Avalon?
Frankie Avalon, maybe, yeah.
I can't remember. It's been a while. But no, it's just... Artie, if you don't know who Artie Lang is, he's a comedian, he's an actor, he's only been in a couple of things.
Second best thing
he's been in a ton of
Dirty
things.
Work.
Not in movies. He was in Dirty Work and he was in a movie.
No, he's an elf. He's
he is an elf. But he's not a leading man role. He has bits and pieces.
No, he's only ever been in the leading man.
But he's he's most well known for the fact that he was on Howard Stern for a while.
I'm trying to think. The only leading man role he had was, is it Beer League or whatever, where they're doing the softball
Beer League.
Yeah.
Which I think he even produced.
What's the
Ralph
show about
Macchio's
the
in that.
comedian that sleeps on people's cat?
Crashing.
Crashing.
He's great on Crashing.
He's great in Crashing.
He's the best part of Crashing.
As a matter of fact, I love, and it's almost autobiographical, the scene where and I'm blanking on the comedian's name.
No, because he's the least interesting part of the show.
But he has the entire thing about
all
how
the
much
other comedians are hilarious. Everyone that gets it's that I haven't watched the last
Pete
season
Holmes.
of Pete Holmes. Pete Holmes is the least interesting part of
I
the
like
show.
Pete Holmes stand up, but I think my favorite part
Nothing
about that
against him.
show
I don't care for his
with
podcast.
Artie Lang is
I agree with James. I liked his stand up. I went back and watched his stand up and enjoyed it, but I didn't think I would because I didn't like him in the show.
But the episode is one of the early episodes where Artie Lang, he finally tells Artie Lang, "I really admire you. I'm trying to be you." And Artie Lang, in a very autobiographical, he goes, "You really, you want to be me?"
Yeah.
With everything that I've got going against me, I can't do this. And I was like, "Oh my god, that's a great scene."
And that's one of the things that's interesting is Artie Lang is a legitimate talented person. He's funny. He does have talent, but then he just has such a bad self-destructive streak that it's just ruined. It's not ruined his career, but it's definitely gone downhill because of
he's
everything.
ruined several careers. He just always gets one back.
Yeah, he always manages to recover, but then it seems like the more fame he gets, he can't handle it, and then he just crashes himself again.
And right now, I think he's 8 or 9 months sober.
8 or 9 months sober.
On Twitter.
He's disfigured himself.
Yeah, his nose.
Yeah.
I follow him on Twitter, and he's lost a lot of weight. He's done some, but I mean, yeah, it's. But even on Twitter, it's so funny because he'll tweet something that's fall down funny, and then he'll tweet something about how lucky he is to be alive, and both are true. Yeah. I mean, the humor is true, but he'll tweet and he tweets out a lot of things like "Thank you all for still believing in me," and I think that gets to the point of what all he has realized he's thrown away.
Right. So yeah, I mean, if you want to read, it's not a well-known person, but he has done some things of just watching how he's just self-destructed over and over again. It's worth the read.
We never got a Sam Kinison book, but it's probably the closest you'll get to somebody that's in that same just self-destructive.
That isn't a rock star.
Yeah.
I was about to say Sam Kinison was closer to a rock star than Artie Lang.
Yeah, but I mean, just the demons, I guess, so to speak.
Sam Kinison may have been the first comedian rock star. I don't know. Depends on how you look at it.
Him or Andrew Dice Clay.
Well,
Sam Kinison came first.
Yeah, Kinison came first. It's interesting. Depends on what you give the definition of rock star. If you're throwing in if the part of your it doesn't matter, but if the definition of selling out arenas, then it would be Kinison.
I wasn't arguing. It was
I'm talking out loud.
I think Sam Kinison is probably the closest we cut, the first to a celebrity rock star.
I'm just talking. It's like what your definition of rock star is.
Yeah.
All right. Anyway, James.
Moby Grape. I don't even know what that is anymore.
How about Dobie Gray? Give me the beat, boys, and free my soul. I want to get lost in your rock and roll. James, I want to drift away.
I wish you would.
I wish I had Dobie Gray instead of you.
If we also know he would just sink.
So a lot of people. So William Shatner kicked off writing books for Star Trek, and I got these in my hand.
That's a horrible picture on the movie one.
Yeah, I wonder.
That is a very pretentious, terrible picture.
But anyway, I think this is.
It looks like he's smelling a fart and
Jared Padalecki's
the love of ranch.
Anyway, no, he kicks him off, and these are interesting books, especially Star Trek Movie Memories, because I love at the end of this. If you don't know
That's
this,
just Star Trek Memories.
I'm sorry, Star Trek Memories is the best one. No offense meant to Movie Memory, because at the end of this one is when he realizes how many people don't like him. And there's a very good scene because he recorded the interviews, and Nichelle Nichols stops him and goes, "Now that we're done talking about memories, I need to take a second to tell you why we have problems with you." And he honestly says in the book, he goes, you know, you snip at one another, you work together long enough, but I never realized how deep it ran. And James Doohan, by the end of this, when they were writing this, wouldn't talk to him. And he ends the book by saying, "Jimmy, you know, I'd love to talk to you. I apologize. I'd never realized you felt this way." And all of that stuff. I say all that to say
is that because that man is so conceited that he doesn't know how much of an ass he is?
I followed this up with this book came out, and I got to attend the Star Trek convention a couple years after this book came out.
William Shatner, come do your show.
And
yeah, I mean you're the only one with a negative story.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Right though, out of the three of us.
Well, here, let me. So this book came out, became a bestseller, and all of a sudden, a lot of people, To the Stars was George Takei's, Beyond the Stars was Nichelle Nichols. Walter Koenig, though, I don't have it with me. I have it signed though by him. Walter Koenig wrote Warp Factors, the neurotic guides to the universe, and it is not just about Star Trek. He starts when he's young. He talks about rooming with Christopher Lloyd when they were both acting students. It's a fascinating book, and then at the end, he gets to who he had problems with. And it made me think the first time, actually, the convention I was at that he signed Warp Factors for me, it was my first sci-fi convention. And I got him to sign Warp Factors. And then I went home and read it. Yes, I read a signed copy. Anyway, and it was really great because he read through it and he goes, I understood where William Shatner was coming from. He said he wanted to make the show the best he could. And in his frame of reference, him being in it more made it better. He goes, you can disagree with that, but I understood where he's coming from.
Yeah, well, he was a star.
He actually argued the one he had the hardest problem with was Leonard Nimoy. Because he said he was on set and Leonard Nimoy would bring his son, Adam Nimoy would, and he said, we were in the third season and I talked about my son, and Leonard Nimoy looked over him and goes, I wasn't aware you even had children. And he said, he said, William Shatner cared, he just wanted to be on screen. He said to me, Leonard Nimoy, I realized then he had no idea he knew I showed up on set on time. He knew I didn't know my lines. He had no idea anything about me. He knew I was a capable actor, and that was it. So it's a very interesting, and I say that to say the convention I went to.
But Chekhov was not an integral part of.
No.
Until later.
Nichelle Nichols, James Doohan, Walter Koenig, and George Takei were at this convention, and they started bad-mouthing Shatner on the stage. I mean, at this convention I went to. Mm-hmm. Walter Koenig got up and left stage. Wouldn't even stay on the stage with him because he said, and then when I read it in the book, I'm like, it made in Warp Factory, it made sense. So Warp Factory, I mean, I held up the Shatner ones, and if you're a Star Trek fan, of course, you should read them. If you want a great book about what it meant to be an actor, and in some ways still does, because he goes on about what does the average actor make, and when the book was written, a new edition is just coming out where he updates it from when he wrote it when I was a teenager till now, and he talks about the loss of his son and all of that stuff. But I'm going to get that edition and read it. But even in the original edition, he talks about, at the time he wrote it, which was in the 90s, the 1990s, not the 1890s, he talks about the average actor, if you looked at the Actors Guilds, including stage, it was $2,000 a year.
Yeah.
He said, and you average that out, $20,000 for some people, $2,000 for others.
Who would think you were talking about the 1890s?
I just want to say not the 1890s.
Okay.
Anyway, Walter Koenig, though.
I feel like this is how long this has been going on.
He talks about there's a great story, though, and I won't give it away because I really do think out of all these, and I'm a huge Star Trek fan. If you're only going to read one of them, seriously, no offense meant to the others because they're all somewhat interesting. Walter Koenig is the most human. He talks about how he couldn't afford a car, so he ran a con to get a car.
Admit it, Space Rangers was better.
He talks about Moontrap with Bruce Campbell.
To interject, it may be, I tried to read Nimoy's second book, and I know we have a fan, Mary. Thank you so much for supporting the show. Her Twitter handle is Love Literature Forever. Bless her, I appreciate it. But I Am Spock, the sequel to I Am Not Spock, damn, that was a difficult, boring-ass book.
It was the 3 Men and a Little Lady of Leonard Nimoy autobiographies.
Well, he didn't direct 3 Men and a Little Lady.
I know, but
I think so much about, and I think a lot of it.
It was about his sandwiches. He would eat honey and onion. I mean, I can remember it as it's not an interesting read.
Well, and I think that's why Walter Koenig's most appeals to me is like Star Trek is some of that book because it's a big part. But it's also just like, here's how I did it. Here's how crazy my family was.
Yeah.
Here's the day my mother told me she tried to abort me by throwing herself down the stairs when she was pregnant. And then after the third time it didn't work, she thought it might be God's will that I be born.
Jesus.
And so he
maybe could also been Buddha.
Well, yeah.
No reason to be.
Vishnu's over there going, can I get some credit?
Yeah.
Anyway, no. So it's a really interesting
Bring
read.
your favorite deity to
because
work.
I'm just gonna say no, y'all are all gonna be damned because nobody said Odin.
Odin.
And the Allfather.
I knew a guy named Odell.
Awful day.
Good for you.
Awful day. You remember
Anyway, the last thing I will say, what I love about the book, and I use the phrasing now myself, is he writes the entire book based on the other shoe theory. If something good happens to him, it is his honest belief something bad has to happen to balance it out.
What happens if you're wearing 2 right feet shoes?
Why would you have 2 right ones?
There's still 2 shoes, Chad.
Didn't pay
There's still
attention.
the
A
other
tale
shoe.
of 2 shoes. That's what Dickens thought about. And then he was visited by 3 ghosts with 3 different titles.
So my personal opinion, and like I said, Chekhov was not my favorite character, but Walter Koenig writes one of the most compelling human memoirs about being an actor in that time period.
And then he asked for more porridge. Wait a tick. Did he write Oliver Twist?
He did write all.
Thank
Not
God.
Walter Koenig, Charles Dickens.
No, Chekhov wore Peace.
No, that wasn't Chekhov. You could have went with some of Anton Chekhov's writings, but I bet you don't know any of his plays.
I don't listen to the Spanish. I don't have anything funny.
You could have went with Communist. At least it would have been a little more accurate. But then I guess you wouldn't know anything about Marjorie Blight. I don't know who Marjorie Blight is.
All right, who's next? Me.
Go for it.
I've talked about this on here before. It truly is. It is not the best written book I've ever read, and technically he's a stuntman who became a director and a NASCAR
But it's still a
owner.
memoir.
Hal Needham, stuntman. Fascinating book. Great stories from Burt to being on fire to Cars. I'm not doing a very good job of selling
Does
this.
he talk about H.B. Halicki in it? The guy that did Gone in 60 Seconds?
he talks a lot about his divorces, which were several. He talks a lot about...
I don't know why a man that sets himself on fire wouldn't be able to keep a marriage together.
Well, he lived... It's funny, even in the documentary I saw, Burt Reynolds talked about how Hal Needham lived in his guest house for a few years. And it cuts to Hal Needham going, Burt couldn't remember anything for 10 minutes, or whatever, something like that. I lived in his guest house for 10 damn years. After his first divorce. 10 years. He wouldn't, is it Donna Shore? Dinah Shore. Dinah Shore. He was friends with Dinah Shore because her and Burt dated during the 70s. He got to live it all. And what's so fascinating about him, what I admire about him, is not only did he become a famous stuntman, a world-renowned director, whether you like it or not.
Biggest movie of '77 after that Star Wars.
Star Wars is Smokey and the Bandit, whether you love his movies or not. He made a lot of them, made a lot of money.
Right.
He made a lot of money on top of that as an entrepreneur because he was the one that gave us who developed and designed the camera car. And he got into NASCAR in the 80s.
Do you think Google pays him every time they do one of them Google Map photos?
I don't know. But, for the movies, yes. I find it fascinating because he was the son of a sharecropper who barely got out of grade school.
He wasn't the son of a preacher man?
No.
Because the only man that could ever please me
is the son of...
Reach me.
Well, mine pleases me. If yours doesn't please you, I don't see why that's any of my business.
Why do you have a man pleasing you? Why am I so judgmental is what you should say back.
Maybe it's because it's some preacher man. Maybe it's bringing the Holy Spirit to me. Why do you have to go that way with it? Perv.
Hal Needham. I admire anybody who is self-made.
And really self-made.
Really self-made.
I mean...
He had nothing. He went into the military and started testing parachutes. He had a lack of fear, and he turned that into a fortune. He turned that into a successful career.
But
and
not
he
without
turned it
cost.
into a huge life. Well, he had several. I think he's had almost every bone in his body broken. Break everybody. You beat me to it. Break every bone except mine.
CD.
3.5 inches of uncircumcised hell. Anyway.
God.
300 pounds to
Holy
push it.
Spirit, Chad.
You
Jeez.
haven't had loving, James, so you've had 3 cracked ribs.
How did I get concussed?
You like it? Can't breathe. The original erotic asphyxiation.
I didn't have to be autoerotically asphyxiated, but it was going to happen.
But Joe was on top of me, and it was going to happen. Anyway, so check out Hal Needham's book. Chad?
James, go ahead.
I'm on this one right now.
How is Ron Perlman's? I'd like to listen to it.
The review on the back of it, actually, it's at the top, actually, I'm sorry. It sums it up really well. It's like breaking into your uncle's stash of his best booze and cigar. And this is Ryan Gosling says this. Ron stands up like the Statue of Liberty, inspiring, towering, reassuring, beautiful, intimidating, and should charge more for tours. And that's honestly...
Does that even make any sense?
Yeah, because he walks you through, and it's not always linear. And at one point he goes, I'm going to let my old acting teacher take a verse. And he literally just reads the book on tape. He reads. It's not done by anybody else. He does it all. But he talks about in the book his old acting teachers and how different they were. The one in high school, he was on the swim team, and he loved baseball. And he grew up poor Jewish kid in Washington Heights, I believe is where it is, in New York.
It's down from Park Hills.
And yeah, right there.
It's on Fontaine.
But it's fascinating because he talks about the makeup of the thing. And I didn't know this. He graduated high school weighing 310 pounds with salt in his urine. And the only way a college would take him, because he was such a big health risk, is they said, listen, you got to get the salt out of your urine and you got to lose 40 pounds or you're not going to college. Because he could go to the community college, or not community.
Was he an overeater? What was the problem?
And it actually made me think about my mother. His mother, so...
The car?
My mother's a car.
Thank you.
Which is actually the car from the movie The Car.
Car.
My mother happens to be a demon that can't cross into cemeteries. Anyway. Did I go too far? Did I sub-allude? Anyway. You're right, Jeff.
Does she turn back with throwing cold water on her?
Oh, Turbo Teen! Oh, anyway.
You lost me. You had me up into the car and lost me at Turbo Team.
Anyway, so he talks a lot about that, and that's one of the more interesting stories. Was he says I've never, and he talks a lot about actually how he needed counseling, and I think that's what really humanizes the book, because he says, I've played villains, I've done all this stuff, he talks a lot about a lot of his roles. But he talks a lot, he says, I still eat constantly. He goes, my favorite food is pizza. And he goes, it's because I grew up within an Italian eatery joint, Chinese food and Italian food, and an authentic deli, all within walking distance of my apartment, my parents' apartment. He talks about his parents' apartment. He calls it a railroad apartment. And I've never heard that term, but it's fascinating because he actually talks about, why it's called a railroad apartment. It's because it's set up to be a railway.
Somebody run a train on his mom.
It was set up to be a railway cart. Because who doesn't want to live their entire life on a railway cart? You had one room, and that was the apartment. And there was one hallway on the outside that connected all these different rooms.
Jeez.
But he lost his dad at 19, and he talks about that, and he talks about how he had actually got a job as a PA, or as he says, I got coffee for the real people. I'm blanking on the actor's name. Richard Lynch.
Richard Lynch.
That's
an actor.
He said when he
worked with Jeff Burr.
Yeah, that's it. And he talks about he was a PA basically, and his job was to keep him sober. That's what his job as a PA was to keep. And then when his dad
we
died,
need one of those here.
He said Richard Lynch was completely nice to him and all that stuff. Anyway, there's so many different stories in it, and he tells them in a non-linear way.
Need somebody to help you keep you sober, Chad.
But, or somebody to help get you drunk. You're not really jazzing this up.
Got to think about it. I want to I agree with Shane. I like you better drinking.
But so the book came out in I think 2014, so it's 5 years old now.
Here's a lot of cocaine, Chad. Get funny, fucker. He can't do the jokes if he doesn't have the meth.
Hey, you know what a snowman likes to eat for breakfast?
No.
Burritos.
Oh.
Oh, I thought it was going to be a good joke.
Nope.
It was a ham bush, you see. Anyway, it's a throwback.
Yeah, I know. So was the burrito joke.
Anyway, but Ron Perlman, it is interesting because he talks about his actors being discovered. He always viewed athletics as a way out, and even though he was a big kid, he made the swim team and stuff. And he got into acting because I'm not making this up. They needed somebody for the play. Not enough people auditioned.
They need a buoy.
And his swim coach.
He was 310 pounds.
And he says in the book, he goes, I don't even remember the
For
man's
an
name.
ex-fat guy, you're awful hurtful.
He doesn't. He says, I don't remember the man's name, but basically what it was the new theater person that the high school hired was trying to put on a play, and no males auditioned. And he basically went into the teacher's lounge effectively and said, do you have any kids that might not suck? And Ron Perlman, because he was a big fat kid, does what big fat kids do. We make jokes before other people make them. And he said, well, Perlman talks all the time. And they showed up to the swim practice, and he literally, the new drama teacher walked in, openly gay man in the 1960s, and the swim coach said, Perlman, out of the pool, you're going to go audition for this man's play. And Perlman goes, what if I don't want to? He goes, well, you're going to go anyway, and if you don't like it, you can come back after you're done. And he said, I went in, he goes, I didn't want to be in the play, I didn't want to do anything. But he talks about his dad was a drummer for like big bands, so you know, and he got out of it when he had kids because it wasn't stable enough to support them. So he said and his brother was a musician, his older brother, and he said so performance was there, and he said I just heard my dad's voice in my head saying, listen, doesn't matter how good you are or if you want to do it, you do the best show you can.
Right.
And he said, so I read it and they cast me, and he goes, I went to the next day, they said cast list will be up. I got the lead in the school play. I never went back to the swim team, and it made all the difference. And so it's a really human, but the review that it's like finding good liquor and cigars is true. Because I can't listen to it with my kids in the car because he uses some fun terminology. Yeah. But he even talks about the cigars in Hellboy. I mean, there's cigars in the Hellboy comic. In the book, he talks about how they altered it because his college acting drama teacher was obsessed with cigars. And in the chapter written by, he goes, oh man, he said every time I saw Hellboy with a cigar, that was Ron's salute to me because he held him the way I held him. And he goes, it was always something that Ron always talked about. He goes, you do this with it. So he goes, that's his homage to me is all through Hellboy. And I was like, that's interesting.
That is cool. Yeah. That's cool.
And the way he holds a cigar in Hellboy is so cool too.
Well, and that's it. And so again, Ron Perlman's. I always thought of him as a very interesting actor, and he talks about.
I don't think David Harbour smoked a cigar in the newest Hellboy movie. He
talks about having a mug like mine and stuff like that. But wasn't that released PG-13?
I don't know.
If it was, they can't.
There's no way it was PG-13.
Anyway,
no, I think it was.
Ron Perlman. I loved him as an actor, but this book, it's called Easy Street: The Hard Way. Is actually the name of his autobiography. It is just infinitely compelling. Like I'm listening to it in my car, and I find myself rewinding it because of the way he phrases certain things. And it's like I've never smoked a cigar, but I have had a couple rare drinks where I'm like, oh, this is really good.
Yeah.
And it is. You can savor it and go back and listen to it again. I rewound it again on the way over here.
So. All right. Chad?
Go ahead.
Don't you have a second one?
I do, but go ahead. You can do your third one.
Oh. Well, hold on. We're doing 3.
Well, you'll do some honorable mentions. Right?
Yeah, well, there's 2. So I'll talk about Ron Jeremy's The Hardest Man in Show Business. What?
No, go ahead.
It's a fascinating book.
Okay.
How does a man get into porn? Well, you got to have a big schmeckle.
Schmeckle.
Schmeckle. He's Jewish. Mm-hmm. In fact, he says when he was a baby, he had a big one, and that they were standing over the crib commenting on it about the whole family. He's been told to him these stories later on. It's been a few years since I read it, but it is a fascinating book. Are you interested in the hedgehog? Are you interested in working in the sex industry?
Well, I was about to say, I know Ron
He
Jeremy.
considers himself an actor, a performer, and that was just the way to get in.
Well, that's what I'm saying, and I would imagine that's true because he's done other things. Matter of fact, actually,
He went to college to be a teacher. Yeah.
however you feel about the movie, I mean, Boondock Saints, he plays one of the best slimy characters.
Yeah.
Yeah, he has a few legitimate roles in a few films over the years that people have cast him in. I don't know that he's a great actor, but he talks about his passion's always been acting and performing, and that's how he could get in it. So all those movies, it was him trying to give the best performance possible. It was just his access to acting, to be able to act, and that's what he could do and make a living at. Plus, he got to have sex with lots and lots of women, which he says was enjoyable.
I've got a question, and I honestly don't know this. I'm not being asinine. And
It's been a while since I read it, so I'm just trying.
I can imagine he's a very interesting person, and there's documentaries about how porn is inherently largely female dominated.
Can be. Well, they're the ones who make the money.
Yeah. Is Ron Jeremy married?
No, I don't know that he ever was married. I
actually was curious about that.
He gets in long-term relationships with women, but he's never. I don't think he's ever been monogamous.
Well, he couldn't be with his line of work. I mean, it's kind of like
I don't think outside of his line of work, James.
Gotcha.
Yeah, yeah, and he's been paid to have sex with people in clubs too and stuff. That's got to be a terrible job, right?
No, I would imagine. And all joking
aside, it kind of can be rough. I imagine.
All joking aside, I don't know. I mean, I make this joke. I've said it with my wife as I put it. I got bruxism. I clench my teeth and grind them at night, so I got to put it in my mouth guard. I got to do all that stuff, and I always look over at my wife and say, "You are such a lucky woman."
Yeah, I've got the bit too. I have to put it at night.
I do all that. So
when did we start getting old and grinding our teeth? When did that happen?
It's stress. I'll tell you what happened to me. See, I decided to have children.
Yeah, I think it started about a year before I had kids.
And then you get ready to have children, and then you realize, oh God, everything in the world sucks, and I've brought kids into this. And then 3 a.m. in the morning one night, you're like, why is my mouth hurting? Oh yeah, it's because I'm grinding everything in it.
Yeah. All right, it's up to you.
All right,
bring it home.
Real quick though, going back to Ron Jeremy.
I know I'm not talking a lot about this. It's been a while since I read them.
Does it cover from so it talks about his birth and about how he was
up until the mid to late 2000s.
Okay, so he covers up until publication more or less.
Yeah, it covers his life.
Because I find that interesting because Ron Jeremy is not exactly a spring chicken.
No, one of the things he talks about in there that I don't think he does a very good. Well, he talks a little bit about it that it comes off a little bit more, but one of the true things about him is he's kind of a sponge person. He's probably never really made a
fetish
fortune at this. He's made a living. He's been on several payrolls. I think Vivid had him on payroll just for years, just so they could say Ron Jeremy a few $1,000s a month, right?
Yeah.
But he happens to sometimes be a hanger-on, in my opinion. Yeah. He doesn't say that. I don't remember him saying that.
One of the funniest stories I have is at the company I used to work with that no longer exists. We sold video to clientele, and a lot of our business was selling. If a celebrity or a politician was on TV, they would want to find all the coverage of them on that about that topic, and we would sell it back to them. Our Los Angeles office actually had a picture of Ron Jeremy at the front desk that says, "Do not sell to this man."
He wouldn't pay.
Yeah, because he would come and pick up and be billed for it, and he just would never pay for it. So if he ordered something, he would have to pay right there on the spot in order to get that product. They would not bill him.
I think, is it Dennis Haskins, the guy that owned the Bunny Ranch? Am I saying that right? You guys know what I'm talking about. He died just a year or two ago.
Yeah,
there was an HBO documentary.
He's a fascinating guy too. When he died that night, the people he had been partying with were Ron Jeremy. They were very good friends, and Hottie Flies.
Of course.
But you can't make that story up.
No, you can't make that story. Yeah.
No, well, I think that's one.
They don't have something in common.
Birds of a feather.
Well, it's not a sex thing. They were just all out partying, and they're all friends. Yeah. And they're all big Republicans.
Yeah. Well, I think that's really interesting, though, because I think if you step back and think about it for a minute, some of my favorite, and there's an entire website dedicated to celebrities hanging out that you wouldn't picture hanging out. We mentioned Leonard Nimoy earlier. Leonard Nimoy and Jimi Hendrix is one of my favorite photos, because I'm like, I just want to know what they talked about, man. Like
That Hobbit song?
I can't. You think Jimmy was like, man, can I cover that?
Probably.
Because I want to cover that, man.
All right, Chad.
Bilbo!
All right, I'm just going to talk about real quickly Drew Carey's Dirty Jokes and Beer.
Yeah.
Oh, I've got that over there on the shelf, too.
It's a great book. Not only does it tell his backstory about how he started out, how he became a comedian, he has some truly dark things that happened to him as a child, but just in between.
And he dealt with depression, too.
Yeah, he
right?
dealt with depression.
He's suicidal.
Right.
And at one point, he was,
He was
by
going
the time
to
the
kill
Drew
himself.
Carey show came out, though, he was,
ready to take his life.
well, he was like me. He was
Yeah.
a big man. But wasn't he in the military at one point?
Yeah, he was in
and
the
was one
military.
of the most fit.
He's a Marine.
Yeah,
He's a
he was
Marine
very.
Reserves.
Yeah, he at one point he was a very fit man, and then he just let himself go because of depression and all the other stuff that was going. His mental issues that he had. But no, in between this story, he will just break out into comedy bits. Like there is a 7-page piece on dick jokes. It's just a list of dick jokes, and then he goes back to telling his story. And that's throughout the whole book, and it's fascinating. And you're reading this truly gut wrenching stuff, but then laughing as you read. My dick is so big, it gets to the room 30 minutes before I do. You know, things like that. Or my dick is so big it wears a tie. That's funny. I don't know why I led with that one, but yeah, the tie one's funnier.
You know what's funny is jumping back to Ron Perlman, he does an entire thing, and it's funny because you think Ron Perlman telling jokes, but he does an entire bit. He goes, "My first apartment I could afford by myself in New York in the Village." He goes, "It was so small." He goes, "You ready for some small jokes?" And he starts to go. He goes, "Every time I open the door, I rearrange the furniture." And I was like, it's funny because it's Ron Perlman being Ron Perlman telling more or less stand-up jokes. And I'm like, God, this is great. Anyway, yeah, sorry.
No, but another interesting is it's when he wrote this book, it was just when the Drew Carey show was becoming popular, when it was at the height of its success. So I mean, it's kind of interesting to see that
Wasn't it
build up.
almost canceled after its first season?
Yes.
Because I loved it when it first came out, and then I know they thought about canceling it.
Yeah, it's and he's the only celebrity where I actually have an autographed picture of him, and I didn't have to pay for it. So it's another cool thing aspect of it. But so
A
yeah,
restraining order.
no, high school Spanish project was write a fan letter to a celebrity that you admire in Spanish. So I wrote it to Drew Carey because everybody called me Drew Carey in high school. So.
But I like Drew Carey.
I was just thinking, Drew Carey's charming as hell.
Yeah. But,
You ain't hosting The Price is Anything. The Price is wrong.
The Price is wrong.
no, but I was big. I had a bowl cut, and the only glasses we could afford were these big black ones. So just like Drew Carey. But anyway, so James, what's your third?
I'm going to go with my third one. It's I enjoyed the book, and I get made fun of because I still haven't. I want to do it. I feel like now it's been built up so much. I need to, it needs to be something special. Like I need to have a nice bottle of wine. I haven't watched Breaking Bad, but Bryan
You
Cranston's
stole
book,
mine.
A Life in Parts,
It's good.
is one of the most compelling. He opens it talking about a Breaking Bad scene,
Yeah.
and about how he started to realize that he started treating the character as if it was his daughter,
Yeah.
and how he actually broke down after they were filming.
Yeah.
Yep.
And that's compelling. But then he goes back and talks about how he more or less created the character of the father on Malcolm in the Middle. How?
Is that why you read the book? Because you liked Malcolm in the Middle?
True story about why I picked up the book. Honest story. Ollie's had it for $3. I knew I was going to be driving a lot. And it was that, or they had romance or war novels. And I'm like, well, Bryan Cranston at least has an interesting voice. And it was read by him.
Okay.
Yeah, and he does a great job with
And
it.
he does a great job with it. Plus, if you read the back of it, it's about how that mentions about how, before he became an actor, he was accused of murder. He was accused of...
And he's not an overnight success. He worked a long time.
He was
Well,
the voice of
and
a Power Rangers villain.
I was fascinated because I didn't realize who his father was. And if you're a Mystery Science Mystery Science Theater 3000 fan,
Rest in peace.
It'll come back again.
Oh.
It will. It better, because screw Netflix.
Yeah.
oh, you got one season for free because the fans paid it already. Anyway, but the Burt I. Gordon film, what? It's not the end of the world. The Giant Grasshopper movie.
Oh,
The Lepus.
The lookout guard in that movie, the beginning of the end, that screams, "Oh my God, there's giant grasshoppers attacking Chicago." That's his father, and he goes, "It's his." He said that's my favorite role by my father because it's just the hell that. But that's he worked on a bunch of Burt I. Gordon and BZ grade movies.
He was a working actor who was in and out of work a lot.
And so that was his father, and near the end, I mean, his father only died shortly before the book came out, and his brother was a working actor as well, and Bryan Cranston, because he found success as dad, listen, I'll help produce a movie. We can finally do the movie that you want to do. And his dad, who I think at that point was in his 80s, said, no, I'm still waiting for the next big thing. And I was like, dude, I'll be honest, you want to do something, your son has some success and is coming to the table wanting to do it.
Yeah, they were estranged for a long time.
They did.
His dad walked out of the picture.
And his mom was an alcoholic, became an alcoholic.
Yeah.
And he talks about how he would have to find alcohol hidden all over her apartment, and she was drinking herself to death. So it's all of these, and I think that's another reason I identify with Bryan Cranston's. I mean, I haven't seen Breaking Bad because I do want to see it, but I want to see it in the right. I don't want to see it because of everything else. Matter of fact, I love him in Sneaky Pete because I felt I could ease into Sneaky Pete easier. That being said, I think he is a great actor, but I love him more, and it's the same way as probably what I'm attracted to is Ron Perlman, Walter Koenig, Bryan Cranston. They are all working.
They're all working.
They all ended up doing things that they're well known for.
They're very famous character actors.
And they keep getting
ended up with some lead roles.
They keep getting pulled into stuff, but they are instantly compelling to me because it's not even Bryan Cranston, whose father he talks about dad would occasionally take us to movie sets and stuff like that, but it wasn't Dad's in Gone with the Wind. It was okay. Cranston, I forget his father's name. Cranston, hit your mark. After you're done, they need you to help tear down that set over there so we can film later today. His dad wasn't anybody either. And I think that's what makes it really compelling is that all the ones I've picked sound self-centered, but I can see a little bit of, oh my God, they came from something akin to that, what I understand. I understand not having a connection, not having a way in, feeling like you're on the outside, and then literally bumbling your way to glory. Not bumbling, they worked hard.
Yeah.
But that feeling of, what am I going to do next? What is next? And going back to Ron Perlman, he even talks about his friends wouldn't let him sleep on their couches anymore. They were so sick of him. And, he couldn't find a place to go. And he had to flee New York. He did a graduate program. This is a great story. I know I'm jumping from what I was talking about Bryan Cranston.
Real quick.
Perlman tells a great story about how he went to Minnesota to get an MFA. There's two funny parts about that. He went to Minnesota to get an MFA because he couldn't afford the parking tickets he got in New York, where he lived there, but he couldn't park. When he parked on campus, he didn't have a parking pass. He'd double park. And in New York at the time, it's $35 when they first caught you. If you didn't pay it within a month, it was $65, and after that, it went to $105.
Mm-hmm.
By the time he graduated, they actually had a warrant out for him, and it was $8,500 in parking tickets he owned. And as he said, he goes, I was a broke college student on scholarship. It might as well have been $12 million. So when I had an opportunity for a partial scholarship to go to Minnesota and get an MFA, I took it because I couldn't afford the parking tickets.
Wow.
And he said, all I could think about is, there's no way a New York cop is following me to Minnesota to arrest me. The funny part is then he goes, I got my MFA. And he goes, whatever the hell that is. And if you're wondering where it is, I punched a hole in my bathroom wall once, and I now use my MFA in the can to cover up the hole. I couldn't stop laughing. All of them are human, low budget, working class stories.
Yeah, push it up.
Yeah, I'm good.
I missed it. All right. So, any honorable mentions?
I mentioned some of the Star Trek ones. If you're really a Star Trek fan, those are good. Some of the ones that we should mention, if you like old school, I've got to mention Errol Flynn's My Wicked, Wicked Ways. Errol Flynn was a horrible human being by all accounts. I mean, and again, kind of like Artie Lang, it wasn't that he was horrible. He was charming as the day was long. But he died in his 50s, early 50s, I think 52, for a reason. He was an alcoholic, and he was accused of sexual assault 3 times. Once he admitted that he paid off. But the book, My Wicked, Wicked Ways, is historically engaging and hilarious. And he talks about near the end of his life, because he wrote it, I think it actually came out right before or right after he passed away. And he refers to one point how he couldn't get funding anymore because he was such a bad alcoholic. But some people from Japan, and he introduced them, these sons of the Asian sun offered me money. I'll later be referring to them as sons of something else. I mean, and again, it's fascinating because Errol Flynn was Robin Hood, Captain Blood. He was swashbuckling and charming and all of that stuff, and how he more or less, and by his own admission, due to his wicked, wicked ways, drank it away, drugged it away, courted it away, so to speak, lots of legal problems.
And essentially, he was the inspiration to save the Goonies.
Chad, honorable mention.
Go ahead.
Kevin Pollak's is How I Slept My Way to the Top, to the Middle, is a funny book. He basically tells stories of had happened on movie sets. One of the best ones is him shitting on Michael Clark Duncan, who's dead. Michael Clark Duncan died before the book came out. And the editor came to him and goes, "Do you want to change this?" He goes, "Nah, he doesn't get a pass for dying."
What's the story?
It's over per diem and whole 9 yards.
Yeah.
And have you read the book?
No,
have you heard the story?
On the podcast, he's told the story.
Okay. So basically, he was being an asshole, Michael Clark Duncan, about getting his per diem at the right time, right? Mm-hmm. That's the gist of it.
Yeah, that's the gist of it.
Because you got per diem. I think they pay it cash, right? It's part of the SAG that they pay you per diem cash.
Unless
and actors
there
love
is
getting per diem.
Unless there is an insurance reason why they can't.
Right.
Richard Pryor.
Yeah. Right. So they pay cash per diem, and that's one of the... Because I actually have heard Samuel L. Jackson talk about this. Someone was asking him in an interview one time, was like, "Oh, so you'd rather shoot in L.A.?" And he goes, "What do you mean?" He goes, "Well, actors hate to travel." "What do you mean actors hate to travel?" "Actors love per diem." I'd like to get per diem myself. Yeah. A few times I've had it before. It's been nice, and I didn't get it cash. Check it out. A lot of fun. I think Kevin Pollak's a very talented actor, a very talented comedian. And
another working
working actor, great storyteller. All right. Anything else, guys?
No. I mean, like I said, I know this wasn't our normal type episode. We're not talking about movies or anything, but I think we don't interview a lot of actors, and this gives us a chance to say, I mean...
That, we've read some books. How the hell did that happen?
I don't know. I think any of the ones that we talk about, if you read, they may not be your cup of tea, but if you read them and you don't have an emotional response to one or two parts of them, there's probably something wrong with you.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much. It's been Bonehead. Tune in next week, please.
When we'll be talking about spam.
Spam. I don't like spam!
Go to hell.